With my 35 years of experience, our team at U.S. Asset Management can deliver professional investment management, financial planning to help you target your goals, and even specialized divorce financial analysis if you need it. We are here to help you make better decisions with your money. Call U.S. Asset Management today, and let's get to work in your financial future. Do you already have your investments with Fidelity? I'm David Cross with U.S. Asset Management. Did you know that you can assign your investment management to my team and put my 35 years of experience to work for you? You simply assign us as your investment manager and you keep the same username and password. Professional management, and you get to work with someone who shares your values. Call U.S. Asset Management today and put us to work for you.
What happens in Georgia gets revealed one by one as the facts are unsealed. From the pit comes what they don't want you to see. When the daily nugget of truth is dropped with your host, BKP.
And we're back. Yes, we're back. I'm your host, BKP. And you're watching BKP Politics on voiceofruralamerica.com. That's BKP Politics on voiceofruralamerica.com. So yesterday, we put out a Substack day before yesterday. Today is Thursday, correct? Yes. Today's Thursday. Tuesday, we put out a Substack article, a couple of them. You can go to Vora, V-O-R-A, Vora, BKP at BKP Politics on Substack and look at all of our work there. And so yesterday was research day. And I have 3 articles I'm working on right now. We're going to start with our first one. And going to start with our first one. And we're going to ask the question, just how many, we're going to look at one particular one, but tomorrow, Friday, ends early voting in Georgia in the runoff for the governor's race, lieutenant governor's race, Republican or Democrat on both sides, U.S. Senate for Republican, Secretary of State for Republican, and so on. But tomorrow, Friday, June 12th, today's June 11th, early voting ends, and Tuesday is Election Day, June 16th. So, I have watched the Jackson campaign, and the campaign, because I am cautious, I don't want to say Rick Jackson lied, quote. But when he stands up and he reads, because that's what he does, the scripted policy positions that he has for his campaign, and they embellish, lie, don't tell the truth, all the above, you know what it means, then that's what he's doing. And you just keep on every day with the lies. And here's the one we're going to deal with today. Because Rick Jackson's campaign has nothing. That's it. It's a show about nothing. It's a campaign about nothing. Remember what a show about nothing? This is a campaign about nothing. There's no substance whatsoever. And the things that they put out, they can't back, they can't do, they can't keep their campaign promises. They don't even know what direction they would go in. But what concerns me most of all is misleading you, the voters, into believing they're going to do something for you. And there's a number of lies this campaign, and we've opened them up every day. Today is the property tax, the big lie, the biggest of them all, the property tax lie. Yes, absolutely. Now, this morning, and I'm going to show you all the way back, he launched his campaign in February, We're going to lay everything out in full detail for you today. In transparency, to be transparent, I did vote for Burt Jones May 19th. I will be voting for Burt Jones Tuesday. I don't like these people that go, back and forth. I don't write endorse on anything, nothing, because you make up your mind, okay? But no one pays me to do my research, no campaign. I'm not on the payroll of any campaign. And there's a reason why I have dedicated my research time to Rick Jackson, okay? Because, at first I gave him an opportunity. I looked at the option of voting for him. But as my research, and yes, there are things that I have concerns with Burt Jones. I'm never going to look at the camera and say, well, you know what? There's no politician I don't have a concern with. So yes, I have concerns with Burt Jones as our nominee, our Republican nominee. But as I researched Rick Jackson and as the campaign went along, I found many more troubling things with Rick Jackson's campaign than Burt Jones. It's that simple. When I looked at the campaigns that you and I can work with as Republicans, or who we can work with in office on many issues that concern us Republicans in Georgia, I come to the determination it's Burt Jones. That's just the bottom line. Now, I'm going to explain why. I don't just say things. I don't just go keyboard warrior and say, okay, I like Burt Jones. I give you substance to everything. You can go look at all the Substack articles I've done concerning Rick Jackson and his campaign. I give you in-depth detail. So we don't want to go too far without welcoming the uglies. We call them the uglies, the people that go on social media, either Rick Jackson campaign paid trolls or not paid, the people that are just so nasty, all right? But if you could put your ugly side down for a minute, we'll take the next hour and we'll explain to you why Rick Jackson has been telling his campaign voters in these rooms a lie since February. And it's the biggest one of all. And I'll tell you why it concerns me. This is the AJC this morning, okay? So this morning, on June 11th, because the guy kicked off his campaign in February, and I'm going to show you right out of the box in March, they started talking about property tax. Georgia's property taxes have exploded. Rick will cut property tax or he won't run again. Well, we're going to explain to you the lies he has told about Burt Jones on property tax, why I don't think he can do it. I don't think he has the courage to do it. In fact, I really don't think any politician has the real guts and courage to truly lower your cost. I don't say taxes because they mask cost under fees, right? Creative different ways to get money from you. So I don't think anyone actually has the courage out there to cut your living expenses as far as what you give the state or your local government on a yearly basis. That being said, so this one we're going to go right into, all right? I'm going to solve the property tax problem in Georgia, period. Okay? All right. He's going to solve the property tax problem in Georgia, period. Now, this, and I'm going to show you the dates, this was on May 5th, right? So this morning, June 11th, he's telling you that property tax, it's outrageous. He's going to cut them or he won't run again. Now we go back to May 5th. I'm going to solve property tax problems, the property tax problem in Georgia, period. Now, I'm going to show you today how every room he goes in, he leads you to believe that's the only thing being discussed in the room, period. All right? And that's the only question he gets. And I'm for sure someone in the room is standing there saying, this is not correct. You can't do this. Moving right along. Hey, you know what? A couple side notes here. Martha Zoller has retired from her daily radio show, I think the end of this month. Interesting. Rick Jackson, congratulations, Martha Zoller. No one more deserving, grateful for your years of friendship and support. Well, I think she came out like right after May 19th and endorsed Rick Jackson, even went and was on stage at the rally he held with Florida State U.S. Senator Rick Scott. So I don't know, but maybe this was, I don't know. How big a check did Rick Jackson write her? So big, if he wrote her a check for that endorsement, did he? Or is it so big she was able to retire, or she's retiring thinking Rick has it in the bag and she's going to go I don't know. I think it's pretty interesting. Now, just something to think about. So for all of you out there that lost your car payment, these online gambling, sports betting, right? Online sports betting. For all of you out there that lost your car payment, lost your rent, your mortgage, lost all kinds of money because you thought there was no way the Knicks could come back. It was a sure thing. Right? Knicks complete NBA final record 29-point comeback. Let me just tell you this. If you lost all your money because it's a sure thing, the NBA, these guys are professional basketball players. No one comes back 29 points on a professional basketball team. Just saying. That maybe the Knicks surged, much like that third place candidate out there in the LA mayor's race that knocked Spencer Pratt out because she surged. You know, like Republicans never surge. Well, maybe the Knicks surged. How much money was lost on that sure thing? Just saying. Now, it's like deja vu all over again, as Yogi Berra would say this morning. I'll make this very quick. We'll get right into our top story of the day. Trump is becoming Jimmy Carter. As you can see, this is MS Now with Minka and Joe. And this is their Chiron on the bottom. Trump is becoming like Jimmy Carter. And I'm like, talking about Iran. Wow. And they say Iran will influence this upcoming midterms, the war with Iran, and inflation and gas prices, and how the cost of goods and services are skyrocketing, and they're going up, will be a determining factor in the midterm elections much like Jimmy Carter and Ronald Reagan, Iran was part of the factor there. Just saying. Okay, moving right along. Now, let's get to our top story today. The biggest lie in the campaign as we break it down. Please have the nerve to stay with me on this, because you're going to want to call your friends, your neighbors, your seasoned, not senior, seasoned, right? Is that what Rush used to say? Seasoned citizens. Now, I won't tell you my age, but I have taken advantage of a 55 or older, that's as close as I'm getting, discount from time to time. And wouldn't we all love to have that property tax, that homestead property tax discount? Well, we're going to show you. So we have, first of all, we have two people that are looking for a job. They are currently on the edge of being unemployed. That's Chris Carr, the Attorney General, and Joan Carr. And this is June 5th. We're going to show you, okay, June 5th. Today's the 11th. Rick Jackson, it's an honor to have Chris Carr's support. He's exactly right. I'm building on Governor Kemp's legacy by stopping insane property taxes, slashing the income tax in half, and making Georgia's education system second to none. Now, I'm going to tell you why these are the things that he has run with ever since March. I'm going to show you in just a minute. But Chris Carr and Joan Carr, they're the ones that know that you're going to slash insane property taxes. I mean, he says insane property taxes. It's just like, Crazy Eddie, those prices are insane. Those property taxes are insane. We're going to be bringing them down, bringing them down, bringing them down. Those, I mean, it's almost like, and if you don't know who that is, look up Crazy Eddie, those prices are absolutely insane. It's like a sales pitch that someone's yelling at you on the TV. Now, Chris Carr, Joan Carr. That's June 5th. So this one right here got me. And I just want to say on a side note here, this is State Representative Brett Cox. I do like State Representative Brett Cox. He is the very first state representative, okay, in the House, the Georgia State House, to endorse Rick Jackson. Very first one. And he comes out with this video June 9th. Today's the 11th. And this is their desperation move. This is why we're breaking this down. This is their closer. Okay. This is why we've got to reveal what really happened here in the big lie. And I want to say, I do like Mr. Cox. I do like Brett Cox. But he's an old, not old, OLD. He's an old football. Well, maybe he's OLD. He's an old football coach, right? He's an old football coach. So let me apologize right out of the box to State Representative Brett Cox, but I'm blitzing you today. I'm going to drop your quarterback. I'm going to drop his ass for a 15-yard loss. And it's going to put you out of first down contention. Maybe that's what you'll catch on to. But I do like the guy. Now, that being said, we almost passed record property tax relief, but Burt Jones gutted our bill. He killed it, then took credit for the crumbs. Now, that is dishonest. Now, in the real world, we call that lies. We call it lies. All right. In the real world, we say, hey, that's a lie. But in the political world, I don't know. Let's stay with the real world. All right. Nothing about that statement. We almost passed record property tax relief, but Burt Jones gutted our bill. He killed it, then took credit for the crumbs. Now, keep in mind the date here, June 9th. Today's the 11th, and this is their closer. This is what they come out with. So I'm going to play this for you, and then we're going to come back and take time to break it down.
Boy, was I wrong. This year, I supported Burt Jones, even donated to him. Boy, was I wrong. This year, we almost passed record property tax relief, but Burt Jones gutted our bill. He killed it, then took credit for the crumbs. I know because I was there. Special interests pressured Burt. He did what was best for them, and not you. I trusted him. I won't make that mistake again. I supported Burt Jones, even donated to him. Boy, was I wrong. This year, we almost passed record property tax relief, but Burt Jones gutted our bill. He killed it, then took credit for the crumbs. I know because I was there. Special interests pressured Burt. He did what was best for them, and not you. I trusted him. I won't make that mistake again.
Okay, I thought you might want to hear that twice. Okay, seriously, I thought you might want to hear that twice, being that we're going to break that down. All right. So we almost passed record property tax. Now, remember a couple things as we go forward. All right. This year, we almost. We're going to tell you what that means. And special interest pressured him. So stay focused on this year, and then special interest pressured him. Now, before we go any further, this is a state house rep. And I reported, I think 2 months ago, where I had sources telling me that Rick Jackson was going to heavily donate to the House Leadership PAC that John Burns, Speaker of the House, controls. Now, we have several state House members that have endorsed Rick Jackson, but we're going to take this closer and we're going to show you exactly why this billionaire that has made $1 billion, right? He made $1 billion, and why he made $1 billion, I am so concerned that if he became governor, who would really, by committee, who would, so this is something you guys are getting in the mail. I'd be very concerned if he becomes governor. This is in the mail. This is his Rick Jackson Superman for governor, right? Pay for. This is something that's going around. Rick Jackson, he's got a cape on like he's Superman, and he's going to come in and he's going to slash those insane, they're insane property taxes. I mean, it's serious. I've watched TV commercials, right? Our prices are insane. Just saying. Now, here's who I think he really should send out. Now, this is for, remember, I'm straight out of the 1970s, right? Yes, if you're wondering, and some of you may not remember the Tidy Bowl man. But remember, this is, I think, Rick Jackson, to me, is more like the Tidy Bowl man, meaning, go look it up in the 70s. The Tidy Bowl man was in that little boat floating around the commode. Well, we're going to flush his bullshit down the drain because I think he's more like the Tidy Bowl man. And I'm going to show you why in just a minute. I'm going to show you why in just a minute. Because he says, what does he keep saying to you? He says, I'm going to get you a boatload of money. A boatload of money. Now, I think every seasoned citizen should pay attention and not take anything I'm saying as a sign of disrespect. You worked your whole life, you raised your kids. If you are 65 and older, you probably paid for your kids' college tuition. You put money back, you put it aside. If you did get a loan for college tuition, you paid it off, help your kids pay it off, whatever may be. You just feel like right now, it's time that you get tax relief. You've paid the taxes your whole life. You feel it's time to get tax relief. You don't feel it's right that you're on a fixed income, fixed retirement plan, whatever it may be. Your property taxes keep going up and up. You don't really own your home. You just rent your home. All the above is the way you feel. And when this guy, this snake oil salesman, comes to your town and he stops with his bus and he gets out and he says, hey, I'm going to stop these insane taxes on you senior citizens. Why, that's very interesting and something you could, you could plug into, you can get on board with. You think this might be the guy? You've heard politicians tell you they were going to do things about your taxes in the past. It didn't happen. Maybe this guy will. So I can understand. But there's two things. I think you've got to pay attention, senior citizens, what he's about to do or what he promises you he will do that he cannot. And then let's just say 40 years old, 40, 35, 40, 45, whatever. You've got 2 children, married with 2 children, whatever your family looks like. However it's made up, you're married with 2 children. We'll leave it there. Okay? You have a small business. You're working hard. Your wife works outside the home. Maybe she has a small business. You're trying to raise your children. And the next thing you know, the tax burden gets shifted over to you. Like my son. Perfect example. Married, three grandkids in the house, runs a small business. My daughter-in-law is always running this one to swim practice, this one to cheerleading practice, this one to softball practice, this one to basketball practice. But then senior citizens get senior exemptions and the tax burden shifts to that family. Now we're going to explain that. So everyone that's listening to Rick Jackson's big lie needs to pay attention. So I showed you this a couple weeks ago. There are tools. Hootsuite, Brandwatch, TalkWalker, and UScan. They can go through and look at everything on social media that is what they call a sentiment analysis. What's the sentiment? What's the feel? What are people most talking about? What is the biggest concern? And it's a sentiment analysis. These tools scan posts, comments, replies across platforms, and it gets this analysis. And that's what these campaigns are using to emotionally pull you in and keep you hooked. Now, I'm going to prove all of this today. So when you go look this up, yes, property tax sentiment is currently one of the most explosive and heavily tracked political issues in Georgia. As the state heads into the 2026 gubernatorial and midterm elections, candidates from both parties are seizing on it because voter frustration over housing affordability has reached a boiling point. Here is a breakdown of the current sentiment analysis and how it shaped Georgia campaigns. So this is a true thing, a sentiment analysis. And this has, keep in mind, property tax, senior citizens, affordable housing, people that rent. Now, we're going to move along rapidly here. Here's a breakdown of the current sentiment analysis in Georgia. The voter sentiment taxed out of our homes. The prevailing emotional driver among Georgia voters is anxiety over the cost of living, specifically driven by skyrocketing home valuations. Now, we have the property tax, we have home valuations. There are people in counties where the evaluation on their home went up 400%, no joke. And then we have the cycle where the commissioners say, we didn't raise the millage rate, so we didn't really raise your taxes. They revalued your house. This is what I always call the, you should thank them, the value of your home went up while you were sleeping. So that's being a little facetious there. Is that the word? So the core frustration as home prices have surged across Georgia over the last few years, property tax assessments have spiked alongside them. Voters on social media and in town halls frequently express fear of being taxed out of their homes. That's senior citizens. Now, Rick Jackson's campaign is playing on fear. Everything is fear with them. They have no strategy. They have no real campaign issues. It's just playing on your fear. And what they've done is they know this. Demand for transparency. There's a strong positive sentiment around the concept of truth in taxation. So, let me keep moving along here. The institutional pushback, protecting local schools. Now keep in mind, these are things that are out there. On the other side of the sentiment divide are local cities, county commissions, and school boards. So every time they say they're going to end your property tax for homestead exemption, there's a group of people that say, no, this will cost us. The people you elect to your school board, your city council, your county commission, you elect them, but they go to lawmakers with lobbyists and say, this will cost us. They never go back and say, oh, this is great for the people that elected us that pay the bills. It's not how it works, especially today. Funding fears. Property taxes account for roughly 71% of all local revenue for Georgia's school. Sentiment tracking shows deep concern among educators and local officials that serve state-mandated caps on property tax will starve local services and shift the tax burden onto the lower-income residents through higher sales tax. Now, we will break all of this down later, but this is all very true, and this is where we're staying focused on why we're not accepting the big lie, and we're going to show you just how large that lie is the Rick Jackson campaign is telling you. Loss of local control. Local leaders frequently express frustration that state lawmakers are trying to score political points by passing one-size-fits-all tax caps. Now, 2026 legislative action. This is where we're going to get into, and it angers me that no media, it angers me that no one out there is pushing back against the Rick Jackson campaign and just giving him a free lane to this big lie, especially about Burt Jones. I'm not by no means, I am not a cheerleader for any politician or candidate. I do not carry their water. I refuse to. And the last thing I am is they're a defense attorney. I say that. I'm not any politician's defense attorney. I'm not coming to their defense. I'm exposing lies. Now, the 2026 legislative action. Now, remember, I told you when you watched the video, I told you to focus on this year, and we almost, in special interest, they claim pressured Burt Jones. Now, the other thing you got to remember, Brett Cox comes from the House side, not the Senate. So at this time, we're going to tell you this governor's race is actually the Georgia State Senate versus the Georgia State House. Yes, it is. Now, Rick Jackson has aligned with the Georgia State House. And Rick Jackson is well prepared, if governor, to make all of his deals through the Georgia State House with John Burns, which leads me to wonder how he would go out, look you in the eye in these rooms, and say, hey, I'm going to slash your taxes, when the body, the state house that he's aligned with, is not going to do it. And I'm going to explain. I promise you. Now, they don't want, when I say they don't want the Senate side, the Georgia State Senate side, to get into that governor's office. They don't want that to happen. Now, 2026 legislative action. The tension dominated the 2026 legislative session, which wrapped up earlier this spring, and it remains the hottest topic of the summer. Senate Bill 33 in May 2026, Governor Brian Kemp signed SB 33, a major reform bill that mandated local governments to cap annual increases to homestead property assessments to a rate of inflation. It also creates a new homestead option sales tax. Now, let me just explain this to you. Senate Bill 33 this bill, if it's not a constitutional amendment, remember this, if it's not a constitutional amendment, a bill is only as good when the governor signs it until the next legislative session. And what does that mean? Even if the governor signs a bill into law, if it's not codified through a constitutional amendment, then it can come back. They can change that at any time. So this June special session that's coming up, June 17th, the issue is so critical that the special legislative session is kicking off this month, specifically to handle legislation connected to local property tax. Now, the campaign impact for candidates running to replace the term-limited Brian Kemp in 2026, including Republicans like Rick Jackson, property taxes are the primary lens through which they are discussing the economy. Because polling and sentiment analysis, remember, consistently show that affordability is the number one issue for Georgians. Campaigns are actively framing property tax reform not just as an economic policy, but as a defense of the American dream and the way to protect the middle class from government overreach. So this is the campaign. They have zeroed in on this, and they're trying to sell you, this is the Rick Jackson campaign, this enormous lie. Right from the time they start, all the way up to June 9th, when Brett Cox goes on and says, hey, I supported Bert. I gave him campaign money, but this year, but that's not true. And he knows that. I actually like the guy. But here you go. Now, remember early, let's go over a couple things Rick Jackson has said. This one goes back to May 19th. That's the day Rick Jackson came in second, 5.8% behind Burt Jones. If you bought your home, paid your mortgage, raised your family, and played by the rules, the government should not punish you because politicians cannot control spending. Okay, now keep that in mind. Because there's no such thing as a Governor Rick Jackson that's going to get the spending under control that would be necessary to cut your yearly living expenses that you have to pay to all of the governments that you live underneath, being city, Board of Education, county, state, gas tax, all of that. He does not have a solution because the guy that did the video is in the State House, and all these State House members, right? I'm going to show you something. They're not prepared to do it. And when he says, control spending, I'm going to show you some people that Rick Jackson will meet if for some reason he becomes governor. Here's another one. This is where I jokingly call him the tidy bowl man, but maybe this is not it, but we'll get to it. Here you go. This goes back to May 19th. Bert had years. Now listen, because again, these are lies. And the man stands up. Well, anyhow, and he tells you this in a room. Bert had years to deliver real property tax relief. He had the title, he had the office, he had the power, which we all know the governor is the ultimate power in Georgia, and Brian Kemp is a heavy-handed governor. That is the difference between us. Burt Jones talks about tax cuts like it's a political bumper sticker. But I know talk, never paid a bill. I will cut income and property tax or I won't run again. Can't do it. Now, this one he brought out April 14th. It's nonstop. Unleashing Georgia's economy and making our state the most affordable in America is going to take action. My plan halts the insane property taxes, slashes the income tax, ends the free ride, and smashes political cartel and that cares more about lining their pockets than helping regular people. Now, everything he says here, he got off of AI. Yes, research that his team has done at what is the most emotional things. So here is this. This is all the way back in April. We're in June. Cut the income tax in half. Freeze property tax. Eliminate wasteful government spending. Okay. And ban government benefits for those who won't work. When Rick Jackson's governor, if you can work, you will work. No one will sit around watching Netflix and eating Cheetos while collecting government benefits past term limits. Okay. Nothing here of substance whatsoever. Nothing. So why is the guy even surging in the race? Well, maybe $200 million. Yeah, what's he up to? He's well over 100 million. Now here's another one. Today is tax day. When I'm governor, you will pay less. I'll cut the income tax in half my first term in office, or I won't run again. I've got it. No? Okay. Those are big words and big statements for a campaign that has no intention or will not be able to do this. Here you go. This is the one I like. I'm going to get you a boatload of your money back and make Georgia the worst place in America to be a criminal. If I don't, I won't run again. Now, this is April 18th, right? April 18th. We're going to show you this is what he does. Now, he takes these pictures and they lead you to believe that the only thing that people want to talk about are property taxes in every room he goes to. All right? But he's going to get you a boatload of your money. And I'll show you why he cannot. And I can't believe he would look at a camera, or Brett Cox would look at a camera, or anyone. So as we move along here, thanks WMAZ and 41 NBC for the chance to share my action plan. The Tidy Bowl man. The Tidy Bowl man. Riding around that little boat. That's the boatload of money. Really what he's selling is a boatload of BS that we need to flush. My action plan to get Georgians a boatload of their money back, slash taxes, and break up political cartels. I wonder if that's what AI told you, the sentiment analysis. I wonder if that was the sentiment analysis that people feel is going on. Here's one. I don't care what lobbyist or donor think because I'm not beholden to them. We're going to end insane property taxes, slash income taxes. Let's see. This goes all the way back to March 5th. Now, I want to show you that for a reason. On March 5th, they knew all along that they were going to go out there, they were going to talk to senior citizens, seasoned citizens, property tax. They've known all along that they need that hard right senior vote to get on the ballot for November. They know that. So he's gone out all over the state. And what did he do all over the state? He's told his tear-jerking, emotional story. Once he pulled you in here, he told you, not quote, but the campaign led you to believe that he's the one that's going to stop this insane property tax and cut your taxes so you don't lose your home and you don't have to pay for your home the rest of your life through taxes. That impression. So this goes back to March 5th, right? Now, hold on a second. I want to get to something here. All right. I just want to make sure. Running right along. I'm going to move this here so we can get to the main point. Just going to start showing you rapidly. This is every one of these have a date on them. This one here is May 19th. Okay. We are going to make Georgia the most affordable state. We're going to cut property tax. This one here, property tax. As you can see, sorry about that. I'm trying to get through these rapidly. Property tax. If you could look at these dates, you will see. Now, sorry about that. Running way behind here. Let me get to. I want to get to. These are all property tax. You can go through here. All right. So, every one of these have a date, and they talk about property tax. Every one. All the way down through here, every single one, a date, property tax. Now, right here, these are state representatives, property tax, property tax. That's all he keeps talking about. And there's Bubba, property tax. They take pictures. He's talking about property tax. There's state representatives talking about property tax. Right now, this one right here. Okay, so ready? In 2019 and 2020. So what I just showed you a minute ago, you can go through there, go to the beginning from March when he launched the campaign all the way up to June 11th. There is the big lie about what he's going to do on property tax. He's going to cut insane property tax. He's going to cut income tax. Now we start getting into he can't do it and where it's actually a lie and we prove it. In 2019 and 2024, the cost of living in Georgia went up 22%. Now pay attention to this. The property taxes went up 49%. That's insane. We'll freeze property tax right away, and then we'll cut them from there very quickly. So he's going to freeze. He's telling you what the cost of living went up, what the cost of property tax went up. Now, this is why people will pay attention. Now, here's the other one. This is where what you see on the screen, Burt Jones, this came out April 27th. Burt Jones has a lot of questions to answer at today's debate. This is the first debate. The second one, he didn't show up. We'll be dropping a few here before it gets started. Stay tuned. Up first. Why did Burt Jones gut real property tax relief while property taxes continue to skyrocket? Okay, we're going to answer that. Then, the next one, Burt Jones says he'll eliminate property taxes is like an arsonist promising he'll put out the fire. Property taxes skyrocketed under Burt Jones, and his response was to block the House property tax relief plan in the Senate just last month. Now, I have to tell you, I'm going to talk directly to Rick Jackson. This is your X account, Rick Jackson, and it's verified. You have your blue check mark. It's verified it's you. And this is your picture. So I'm going to look right at you, Mr. Jackson. I'm going to ask you right now from this point on, watch this and let me show you why what you just wrote, according to this, you wrote it, And I have no problem with you attacking your opponent. This is politics, but I'm going to give you a clear opportunity to apologize or retract or say, you know what, this statement's not true, and in my world, it's a lie. Because watch and see. Property taxes skyrocketed. He didn't do anything, right? His response was to block the House property tax relief plan in the Senate last month. So here's where we start breaking down the actual truth. We get to it finally. The constitutional amendment. Now, don't forget that you, the voters, voted on a constitutional amendment according to about property tax. In 2024, it's 2026. Now, I would like to know, would somebody call Rick Jackson and ask him how he voted on this amendment? Now, he votes. So, according to the last post I just put up from Rick Jackson, call Rick Jackson and ask him his response, get his response on how did he vote in 2024 on the constitutional amendment question that capped property tax assessments at the rate of inflation not to exceed 3%. I think so. We'll bring it up here in a minute, okay? How did he vote? And when he found out that all of his local county opted out, how did he respond? Because here's what happened. A constitutional amendment in 2024. You are referring to the Georgia Amendment, officially known as the Local Option Homestead Property Tax Exemption Amendment. It was placed on the November 2024 ballot after Georgia General Assembly passed House Resolution 1022. Now, keep in mind, for a constitutional amendment, you have to have a House resolution to put it on, or a resolution, not a House resolution, a resolution to put it on the ballot for you, the voters. Now, here's where we're going to give you the truth of what happened. So why Rick Jackson is aligned with Brett Cox, and why Brett Cox is going out and saying that Burt Jones stopped any kind of property tax relief this year. This is just not true. Here's exactly what the amendment accomplished. Floating income tax cap. It amended the state constitution to allow the legislature to create a statewide homestead property tax exemption. This exemption especially caps how much the assessment value for the primary residence can increase each year, trying to maximize increase of the rate of inflation. Now, to try to explain this, you first have to have a constitutional amendment, and then you have to mirror that amendment with a piece of legislation that mirrors the constitutional amendment for the governor to sign. The local opt-out. Now keep this in mind. This is big. The local opt-out clause, because property taxes fund local governments and school districts. The amendment included a crucial compromise. It allowed any county, city, or local school board explicitly to opt out of the cap and continue assessing property taxes at full value. Now, I think most of you remember all of your either tax assessor or county clerk or someone explaining the budget and showing you on a big screen what could happen if you didn't opt out. What the county, what the Board of Education, and what the city would lose. Keep that in mind, what they would lose, not what you would stop paying. And then the companion sales tax. To help local governments offset any revenue loss from capping home values, the legislation tied to this amendment allowed counties to implement a new 1% sales tax. So, that was That was 2024. That was a constitutional amendment. But before we go any further, let's look at the opt-out, because you keep hearing about Homestead, and I'm telling you, next year, no matter who's governor, we will get into this much deeper. But if Rick Jackson is watching and he would like to be honest, I mean, just saying, he's a Christian man, just put it out there, not questioning his Christianity, but if he'd like to be honest, let me introduce you to the ACCG, Mr. Jackson, and that is the Association of County Commissioners in Georgia. You will meet them, and you will meet their lobbyists if you don't give the counties some kind of creative way to get their money back from the pockets. So over here, you put the money in this pocket, and the people say, oh, I'm not paying property tax any longer. But then again, you give these municipalities, counties, different government organizations the opportunity to take it back out of this pocket, and maybe even more than what was put in the first pocket, if you understood. Now, let me introduce you there. Let me also introduce you, Mr. Jackson, while we're at it, to the Georgia Municipal Association. That's for your cities out there, their lobbyists. Let me also introduce you, Mr. Jackson, to the Georgia State Board of Education Association. You will meet them. And let me show you something else, Mr. Jackson. You will meet the Georgia Sheriff's Association, because all those sheriffs, and I'll show you in a minute, that you say you're going to cut the insane property tax, but you're going to fully fund this over here. Does this mean you'll just say anything? Because it can't be done. And then also, now the Georgia Sheriff's Association, a sheriff is a constitutional officer in your county. That's different. This is that's an office. This is a department. Let me introduce you, Mr. Jackson, to the Georgia Fire Chiefs Association. We'll explain that one a little more in detail to you as we continue to talk to Mr. Jackson, because we got to help him understand what he promises, the mountain that he thinks he's going to climb, and it's not going to happen. Okay? Georgia's Fire Chief Association. Yes. So when they come to you and say, hey, the county ACCG, and they come in at the same time and say, how do you expect us to buy our ladder trucks? And so on and so on. Now, let's go back to identifying and giving you the facts on that lie. So Georgia voters overwhelmingly approved, because all of you seasoned citizens that keep going to these Rick Jackson events and hear him say, I'm going to just freeze those property taxes. I'm going to do it. Now, I want to ask you a question. Every time he does that, how many county commissioners, when he goes up there and he's shaking hands, I've got a quick question for you. When he's up there and he's shaking hands with all these people lined up around the block that he has staged these events or his campaign, how many are county commissioners? How many are, how many are the, city council? How many are the school board members? Because he keeps talking about this property tax. Just saying, maybe they're out there. But you, the voters, keep this in mind. Georgia voters overwhelmingly approved local option homestead property tax exemption amendment during November 5th, 2024 general election. All right, here's the final officially certified outcome of the vote. Now, to get a constitutional amendment in Georgia, you have to have 60%. That's a supermajority. Has to be 60%. You voted for this 62.92%. because it received well over the required simple majority. When I say simple majority, I thought it required a super. I apologize if I have that incorrect. Let's strike that from the record. I apologize if that's incorrect. We'll look at the majority needed. I thought it was one thing, but let's get to the fact of the matter. It's 62.92%. Actually, the super majority is what's required to get it on the ballot. We'll get to that in a minute. That's where I have it. May have that incorrect. But you voted 62.92%, almost 63% of people voted yes on this. It was successful. It is a constitutional amendment. Keep that in mind. Every time they talk about property tax, you already voted on a constitutional amendment. Now, let me explain something else on this, because here's where we're going to get in the nuts and bolts on just how bad they lie. All right. The companion bill. When you do a constitutional amendment, you got to have a companion bill. Keep in mind, the companion bill that became law alongside the constitutional amendment was House Bill 581. While the constitutional amendment, H.R. 1022, gave the state the legal authority to cap property taxes, HB 581 was the enabling legislation, meaning it created the actual rules, mechanics for how the cap would work in the real world. Governor Kemp signed it into law April 18, 2024. Now, here's what's important. The inflation cap mechanism, the strict opt-out process. Because the constitutional amendment allowed local governments to ignore the state cap, HB 581 laid out the hurdles they have to clear to do so. If a city, county, or school board want to opt out and continue assessing taxes at full market value of homes, they cannot do it quietly. They are required to advertise their intent, hold 3 separate public meetings, and pass formal resolution by March 1st, 2025. Now, let me explain that to you. So the opt-out. So I told you about the ACCG, right? The GMA, the State School Board Association, all the lobbyists that fought this. They fought it hard. Even though you, the taxpayers, right? You, the taxpayers, wanted this by overwhelming almost 63%. They put the opt-out clause. And all of your counties had these meetings, and, their commissioners and their Board of Education and their cities, for the most part, opted out. Now, they created a new sales tax called L-Host. L-Host. We'll get into that later. But what good was this legislation? What good was the constitutional amendment if an opt-out clause? Why would they do that, right? Well, let's get into it. Mr. Jackson, I sure hope you're watching, because we're covering every flat out. Now, I always love when my AI says I'm exactly right. I love when my AI, because I already know the answer. I just wanted them to write this down for me. You are exactly right about the political dynamics between the two chambers. Though through that specific battle, over the constitutional amendment happened during the 2024 legislative session. Remember? Your memory on how the legislation evolved is spot on. I always like to do that. My memory spot on. Here's exactly that showdown, how it played out. Mr. Jackson, please listen close. 2024 showdown. The Senate original bill, no opt-out. So you have to remember, the Senate in 2024 Got it? That Burt Jones, the lieutenant governor presided over, had no opt-out. When the Senate sent their bill to the House, there was no option for anyone to opt out. Counties, school boards, and city councils, they would just have to deal with this with the taxpayers, and they'd have to handle it. So the Senate original version, no opt-out. The push for the property tax cap originally started in the Senate. Mr. Jackson, pay attention, okay? Because I know you do not want to stand up, and Brett Cox doesn't want to stand up and go down a road to lie. It originally started in the Senate, introduced early on Senate Bill 349. The Senate goal was a strict mandatory cap on how much assessments could rise each year across the entire state. They did not include a way for local governments to bypass it. Right? Now, keep in mind, Rick Jackson's aligned with who? The House. Brett Cox is from the House. You can see all the House members. He's aligned with the House and John Burns. So he keeps promising you to cut this insane property tax. He keeps telling you that we've got to roll back this, spending. But he's aligned with the people. The House rewrite, keep this in mind. The House rewrite, adding the opt-out. The State House pushed back, citing need to protect local control over school and county funding. When the House took over the legislation, they rewrote it. They changed the cap to float with the inflation rate. And exactly as you noted, I noted, they added the opt-out provision so that city councils, county commissions, and school boards could choose to ignore the cap. Got it? The compromise. Because constitutional amendments require a 2/3 supermajority. This is where the 2/3 supermajority. You have to have a 2/3 supermajority. And this is how the House negotiated this with Democrats. Because the constitutional amendment requires a 2/3 supermajority to pass the legislature, the Senate ultimately had to accept the House's changes. They passed the House's version in a final hours of the 2024 session, so the issue could go to the voters in November. So, Mr. Jackson, if you're listening, we have it right here in black and white. We can send you copies of it, or for sure, your highly paid team can pull this up. That under the Lieutenant Governor's office, a really good constitutional amendment with a bill with no opting out from lobbyists. Remember what I told you? Brett Cox said special interests pressured him. Right? That's what he said, because we're going to get into what this happened this past year in the property tax political stunt that they set up for Rick Jackson. It was always set up for Rick Jackson, this political stunt. They never talk about 2024. So remember, in that video, special interest pressured him, talking about Burt Jones. 2024, the Senate had no opt-out. Now, so let's go to the 2026 legislative session really quickly here. Yes, your memory of the 2026 session is exactly right. I always like to do that, Earlier this year, House Speaker John Burns made a massive property tax overhaul, his top priority. Remember, came out, going to cut property tax. John Burns, the big announcement in the rotunda with all the people behind him. But it crashed on the House floor because it failed to secure enough Democrat support. It was always a political stunt. It was always set up. Because the Democrats know that they had to have them And John Burns knew that he had to have Democrats. It was always a stunt. Here are the specific details of the measure, the math behind the vote, and why it ultimately failed. The details on H.R. 1114. The proposal was introduced as House Resolution 1114, backed strongly by Speaker Burns and House Republicans. It aimed to essentially phase out property taxes on primary single-family residents over a decade. Now, Burns knows all along this is not going to happen. He's not going to get the votes necessary. He's the one that put the opt-out in 2024. Yes, he put it there in 2024. He knew setting this up. This is when Rick Jackson says, hey, Burt Jones shot it down. Burt Jones gutted the bill. Burt Jones didn't give it a chance. None of that is true. Not a bit of that is true. All right, I'll show you in a minute, right? The mechanic. Currently, Georgia homeowners pay property taxes based on 40% of their home's assessed fair market value. H.R. 1114 would have steadily reduced that taxable portion from 40 to 10 over 10 years. Really? The backfill, because this would wipe out an estimate of $5 billion in annual revenue to local governments and school districts. The plan authorized local governments proposed existing local sales taxes and change new assessment flat fees for special services. Now, special services, we'll get into that. Maybe like fire, maybe like police. Absolutely. Maybe like digging up a tree. Maybe like putting a pool in the backyard. Now you have to have a soil disturbance permit, a drain, a water runoff evaluation of your property if you disturb it. Oh, yes, absolutely. So, John Burns knew the vote requirement because H.R. 1114 sought to change the way local governments are fundamentally allowed to collect taxes. It required a constitutional amendment. In Georgia, passing a constitutional amendment in 180 members takes 120, right? On March 3rd, 2026, the resolution failed on the floor. The tally final vote was 99 to 73. Republicans were 21 votes short of the supermajority. Now, Burns knew that when he put it on the floor. He was 21 votes short. He knew Democrats would not give it to him and push it over the Senate. But they knew this would be a campaign stunt. Remember, because all the way back in March, when Rick Jackson kicked off his campaign, he talked about insane property tax, right? He's gone all over the state and talked about it, but he's aligned with John Burns, who did not, who prevented you from having a true, based on rate of inflation, I think not to exceed 3%, property tax cap. He stopped that. Rick Jackson's on board with him, and now they lie about what happened. When all along, the state Senate sent the bill with no opt-out. Lieutenant Governor Burt Jones. Now, why Democrats blocked it? Guess what? Democrat lawmakers led by House Majority Leader Carolyn Hughley, whipped their caucus against the bill for two primary reasons. Local budget cuts, the shift to renters. Also, this would shift a burden over to assessments on rental property, and rent would go up. So Democrats said no. Now, let me finish up here. You are touching on one of the most contentious flashpoints in the 2026 Republican gubernatorial primary runoff. The Rick Jackson campaign has indeed been hammering Lieutenant Governor Burt Jones, claiming he blocked meaningful property tax relief during the final chaotic days of the legislative session. Rick Jackson has these attack lines out there that he knows are not true. Jackson's campaign have heavily criticized Jones for a specific procedural move that occurred in late 2026 session and campaign messages, and they point out that the Senate, which Jones presides over, voted 24-28 to strip a strict 3% levy cap from pending property tax. Why'd they do that? The opt-out never changed. This piece of legislation was not the piece of legislation that you needed, senior citizens, to fix your property tax. The reality of the legislative battle, the attack of classic political maneuvering that uses a single vote to paint a misleading picture of Jones' overall record on the issue, the reality of who blocked what is much more nuanced than rooted in ongoing feud between the House and the Senate. Right? House, the watered down compromise, the opt-out, this all came from the House. So, why Jackson is using the attack? Because both Rick Jackson and Burt Jones are running on a platform heavily centered on tax cuts. Both want to eliminate state sales tax, income tax, state income tax. They are locked, one more time, please bear with me. Because Rick Jackson and Burt Jones are running on a platform heavily centered on tax cuts. Both want to eliminate the state income tax. They are both locked in a fierce battle to prove who is the true champion of affordability. By pointing out to a messy reality of legislative compromise, Jackson, a billionaire businessman, pitched himself as an outsider, is trying to paint Jones as a typical politician who caved to pressure and settled for a weak bill. In fact, we go back to 2024. Let me wrap this up. As we've pointed out, just a bold-faced lie. Here is on June 11th. No one will support law enforcement more than me. We'll enforce the law, lock criminals up, and make sure they have the resources they need to deal with mental health crisis in our jails. Grateful to have the support of former Floyd County Sheriff Tim Burkhalter. Now, let me just say this. He cannot go around the state and tell the sheriffs what he's going to do and how he's going to do it and tell you he's going to cut your taxes at the same time. So let's look at his taxes for a minute on his 45,000 square foot home. He's the guy that says taxes all the time. So here you go. Here is Rick Jackson, and this is public record, so we're not doing anything illegal here by publishing this. You can go look this up yourself. 45,000 square foot. Now, as you can see in 2019, I'm going to show you something here. Rick Jackson paid $99,554 taxes. 2020, he paid $99,410 in property taxes. 2021, his property taxes dropped to $37,415. Why the drop? He became 65, right? On a 45,000 square foot property, home, that he paid close to $100,000, it dropped to $37,451 because Forsyth County passed senior school tax exemption. Senior school tax exemption. And I'm going to show you some things in a minute. Now, where did that $60,000, 40 to where'd that close to $60,000 that he now does not pay? Where'd it go? They shifted the burden. This billionaire, and I'm not trying to say I'm a Republican. I'm not saying tax the billionaire, but at the same time, this billionaire shifted the burden. The next year, 2022, 2023, it dropped a little bit, 37. 2024, it went up to 38,997, and then it dropped all the way back. Rick Jackson's tax bill for 2025 on 45,000 square feet went down to $35,091. So let's look a little closer. Watch what I'm about to show you. Here's the tax bill for 2025. It's county M&O, $20,745. So that's the tax on that property. Now, the county bond, $2,199. Keep in mind, all this stuff they talk about property tax, they're not going to take away the lucrative business of the bond companies. Rick Jackson's not going to do that. They're not taking away the lucrative business of the bond companies. It's not going to happen. And when a county passes a bond referendum and they buy a bond, you, the taxpayer, I don't care who you are the collateral. Now, this could be an argument, but let me remind you of something. You may have a senior exemption, but it's very possible you may not get it on bond payments. Possible. Because remember, the only way they can do what they promise you is to give creative options for your county, city, school board to raise money. Raising money is from you. Now, and it's not a volunteer fundraiser. And as you can see, in 2025, he got exempted $7,330 from a school M&O tax, and he got exempted $7,330 from a bond. Now, here's something you got to remember here, okay? He paid a 12,000 fire district, right? He had to pay fire district market value, assessed value, taxable value, the millage rate. He had to pay $12,146 as a fire district tax, not county MO. So get ready. If you get exempted, get ready to have a fire district tax, right? It could happen. Now, let me show you something else. The fire district tax went up because here is 2023. The fire district tax was only $10,314. But if you go back and look at 2025, the fire district tax was $11,769. And then if you look at the fire district tax for 2026, it's $12,146. So if you notice, the fire district tax keeps going up. All right. He turned 65. I want to get past this because I've got to Hurry up. Now, he got an exemption. This is in 2020. Keep in mind, in 2020, his fire district tax was $7,830. Now it's up to, maybe he's upset, now it's up to over $12,000. That's the fire district tax. That's a line item in itself. If you notice on your tax bill, you have bond, you have M&O, but they can keep adding these lines. Or when you go over, you want to build something on the house. Like I said, land disturbance fee, right? Water runoff study. Oh yeah, don't think I'm making this up. Whatever it may be. Or new creative lines like law enforcement fee, courthouse maintenance fee. I don't know, but they can do it as they exempt you, right? So, property tax. Remember Brett Cox? That's not exactly true what you said. And then what he said as far as Rick Jackson, all the way from March, right up to what? March, right up to June 9th, 2 days ago. Property tax, going to slash it. Insane property tax. Knowing that every room he stands up in. And when he says, hey, I had widows come up to me, at least 6 of them, going to lose their home over property tax. I want you to do me a favor. This is for Rick Jackson. I'm speaking directly to Rick Jackson. If for somehow you become governor of Georgia, when the ACCG lobbyist and the GMA lobbyist and the Sheriff's Association lobbyist and the Fire Chiefs Association lobbyist and the school board, the Georgia Board of Education, State Board of Education, when all those lobbyists come and they sit down in your office and they start talking to you, will you look at them and say, you know, when I was on the campaign trail, 6 little tiny widow women, they were widow women. They were frail. They had tears in their eyes. And they're going to lose their home over property tax. What should I tell them? I don't know. That's your problem. I'll tell you what to tell them. Tell them we'll exempt them. Let's shift it over to our kids, right? They can absorb it somehow, some way. All right, this is a campaign, as you both know, all of you know. I would like you to, I'm just going to put this out here. When he was in LJ and he said, thank you, Amanda. Thank you, Amanda, for joining us in LJ and sharing what's on your heart. Someone should ask Rick Jackson how long he has known Amanda. When did he meet Amanda? When did Amanda come into his life? What's Amanda mean to him? This has happened all over the state of Georgia. You figure it out. Now, so this guy, we've dealt with the property tax lie today, point blank. Remember the debate panic? Over 600 conservatives rallied with Rick Jackson. No one wanted to be with Burt. That didn't go over well, right? And remember when they were putting this out? Day 3 since Burt Jones refused to accept June 14th debate, right? Jackson hiding from a debate. And remember what they did? They set this up. Huge crowd in Kennesaw to see Scott for Florida. Rick Scott. He had to bring in a U.S. senator from another state to do a rally that was all staged to have a scheduling conflict, right? And then he had this one here. Thank you, Kennesaw. 600 plus Georgians are here today to hear from two conservative outsiders, Senator Scott of Florida and me. Senator Scott, thank you for your support and friendship. Let me just say this. You ever notice the events at the bottom? Food and drink provided. I mean, so I was just wondering, not to go into great detail, go look up how much money Rick Jackson has given to Rick Scott's campaign in Florida. Jackson Healthcare, go look it up. Take a minute and go look it up. Jackson Healthcare, how much money surrounding them has gone to Rick Scott in Florida. Just wondering. And then at the same time, I was wondering if Jackson Healthcare ever had any contracts with the state of Georgia. They had a contract with the Florida Department of Corrections. It's contract C-2738 with Locum Tennis, is that how you pronounce it? .com LLC for the statewide Locum Tenens healthcare professional services, including psychiatrics. It was a $6 million contract that ran from 2012 to 2024, and it specifically listed hourly rates for psychiatrists at Florida State Prison. That contract's now closed. Okay. I mean, you can he's got contracts all over the United States, so I just wondered when he got this contract. Yes, it was. Rick Scott was governor of Florida from 2011 to January 2019, and that contract was 2012 through 2014. Just wondering, I mean, there's probably some pretty good reasons. So here's the other lie, right? I'll be President Trump's favorite governor. Well, President Trump is doing a teletown hall with Burt Jones tonight. When he looks at Georgia, he'll see a state that is leading the nation, led by an outsider. Remember this? This was May 19th, right? Here's one he did on May 19th. I'll bring a business mindset to Georgia and partner with President Trump. He still cut taxes. He's still trying to get you to believe, right, that he supports Donald Trump. And that was one of the many lies. Never Trumper, okay? We have already accepted a June 14th debate to celebrate Flag Day and President Trump's birthday. Just, man, they did everything, right? There's another one. How about this one here? So when he couldn't get out of why he didn't debate, because the first time it was found out he had an illegal working at his house, painting the mulch, and he couldn't get out why he didn't want to stand next to Burt Jones. They staged the whole Rick Scott thing, and then he could not develop he couldn't get you to believe he's a Trump supporter. I'm going somewhere with this. Now, if he couldn't win you over as a Trump supporter, he's going to try to lead you to believe that if you elect him, it'll be like Brian Kemp never left. Absolutely. 5 days from now, Georgia has a chance to choose a business leader who will build on Governor Kemp's legacy over the self-serving politician who's in it for himself. I'm Rick Jackson. Let's light things up. Go vote, Georgia, right? Business who will build on Governor Kemp's legacy. So he got caught lying, basically trying to lead you to believe he's a Trump supporter. Tried to lead you to believe that he had another engagement and couldn't make a debate. Tried to lead you to believe that Brian Kemp endorsed him. How about this one, right? This is February 17th to 18th. They jumped right out. Don't even know who the poll is. Rick Jackson with his largest lead yet. Georgians want action. Remember, this was February 19th, right after he announced. They tried to lead you to believe, right? You ready? All right, let's wrap this up. So they tried to lead you to believe that Rick Jackson, let's get this clip. Ready? One more time. They tried to get you to believe that right out of the box in February, when he announced that Rick Jackson was in the lead in polls and was already pushing Burt Jones out of the race in second place. Right from the very beginning, they tried to lead you to believe that all along. But the truth was, Burt Jones came in first on May 19th by 5.8%. They tried to lead you to believe that Donald Trump and Rick Jackson somehow have a relationship. They tried to lead you to believe that Rick Jackson gave this $1 million, but it wasn't until it was found out, right, that he gave it well after Trump got elected. They tried to lead you to believe that he was a Trump supporter all along, while he supported Jeb Bush, Jeff Duncan, Liz Cheney, right, and Nikki Haley. And that totally fell apart, that he would be Trump's greatest governor. And that fell apart. That's the second thing they tried to lead you to believe. There was nothing true about that. Then, what else they try to lead you to believe? After that dismal debate, and it was found he had an illegal at his house under some kind of, workman's compensation claim that's in court. Got hurt painting the mulch, we understand. And that debate went south. They tried to lead you to believe on the Atlanta Press Club debate that it didn't matter. That they had set up a debate for June 14th, well after early voting, and no one cared. And that they had a scheduling conflict. They tried to lead you to believe that was all prearranged scheduling conflict. It was more important to be with 600 possibly paid supporters, possibly to attend, some maybe. And maybe a nice donation to Rick Scott, maybe. But they tried to lead you to believe that that debate did not matter at all. And Burt Jones was the one that was denying or not taking the option to debate. That fell apart. Everything fell apart. Now, since March, all the way up to 2 days ago, they try to lead you to believe that Burt Jones failed on property tax out of the lieutenant governor's office, while all along it was John Burns in the State House with Brett Cox, who came out on June 9th to get you to try to believe that Burt Jones threw the state property tax under the rug and threw it out. No, that it was Burt Jones the reason they didn't pass it. And it's not true. That failed. Totally failed. That was a lie. And they tried to get you to believe from March all the way up to June 9th that Rick Jackson will freeze and roll back property taxes, knowing it was John Burns that put the opt-in clause. So how does he plan to do it? This campaign is trying to lead you to believe about any possible thing they can. You see, this morning on the AJC, what did they do? What did they do? They put up that Rick will cut property taxes or he won't run again, right? And then this guy put out the video. This guy put out the video saying that Burt Jones is the one. That's Brett Cox. And then now they want to get you to believe he's Superman. Rick Jackson is Superman in his recent mailer. And I think if you look at everything, kind of equals the Tidy Bowl man to me. Because he's riding around in a little boat in a commode. And hopefully, June 16, we're going to flush his BS down the drain. That's it. Now, tomorrow, I'm going to do a segment on John Ossoff, Mike Collins, and for the weekend, and Mike Collins and Derek Dooley. And tomorrow also, I'm going to do a brief segment on the lieutenant governor's race. And let's see what happens tonight. Hey, send me messages. I got no problem with it. Send me messages, whatever you want. I love good debate on the issues. And I want you to know, whoever you vote for, whoever, whatever, I'm not mad. I'm not going to attack you. People are going on there saying, I voted for Burt Jones today. I don't go on there and cheer because I don't do that. People are going on there and saying that they voted for Rick Jackson. I don't go on there and say, boo. That's your vote. If you choose to go public with it, uglies, stay out of it. Stay out of it, the uglies. Just if you don't have something to debate constructively and you don't have any facts that you can put out, just stay out. I'm your host, BKP, and remember, this is just another nugget of truth, right? This is just another nugget of truth with BKP. That's what we call it, a nugget of truth, just another one. So, let me see. I better get out, right? Let me take this down, and let's see. Let's go with this one.